USA 0, Ukraine 2 in a friendly in Cyprus. It is the Best Soccer Show's post-game show. We are live right now. Phone lines are open, 201-430-2378. Jason Davis here with you. Not a good performance for the United States against the Ukrainians in a game that had a lot of drama ahead of it. Didn't have a whole lot of drama in it. The only drama was whether or not that back line was going to give up a third goal. That center back pairing, Oguchi Onyewu, John Brooks, did not cover themselves in glory in this game. Clearly, this is what I'm thinking as that game is winding down, as we're getting to added time, and I'm getting ready to come on the air. For whatever reason, and this could be a negative if you want to chalk it up to that, you want to lay this at Jurgen Klinsmann's feet, I don't know. But for whatever reason, when the United States is in these audition-type games, when Klinsmann is trying to learn something about his team and learn something about the individual players on the field, whether or not some of these guys may merit a World Cup roster spot, they just don't play well. They just don't play well. They don't play as a cohesive unit. They look disinterested. They look unable to complete simple passes. Clearly, communication is an issue, as we saw with that back line today. Now, I will say this, and you heard Taylor Twellman say it. I said this at halftime as well. There's a lot of information for Jurgen Klinsmann to use out of that match. Yeah, a lot of it's bad, but it's still information. It still helps him do his job as he attempts to put a roster together for the World Cup in Brazil. I think it's safe to say that Edgar Castillo, John Brooks, Oguchi Onyewu, none of them made a case to be on that plane for Brazil. Jeff Cameron may be included because of his versatility, because of the available options at right back. He makes the most sense. He didn't play well today because nobody played well. The only names that you can pick out and say, well, they didn't throw up on themselves, for lack of a better phrase. Jermaine Jones, thought he played okay, doing what he's supposed to do in this lineup. Tim Howard didn't play poorly, gave up 2 goals, both of them rebounds. Could he have held either one? I don't know. He probably doesn't give up the second one if one of those center backs gets to the line. Not sure what's going on there. Now, these basic breakdowns, do you take them and port them over to what would be Klinsmann's first 11 when they take the field against Ghana in a couple of months' time? Are you concerned about what just happened in Cyprus? Are you going to tell us that because John Brooks and Oguchi Onyewu couldn't get their S together, that the United States is going to be screwed against Ghana in 99 days or whenever they kick off? I'm not sure it's 99 days. 9:05, you're on the air.
Oh, hey, Jason, it's Vince.
Vince from Toronto. What's up, man?
Hey, that was a very Canadian display by that team.
Is that how you're going to paint it? Oh, man. Harsh on the Canadians.
When you're talking about Cameron, I didn't think he had a bad game defensively, but his crosses were abysmal.
He is not. He needs to work on his crosses. His crossing is not his strength.
He does it well at Stoke, but I'm guessing he hits them harder because he's like, Crouch, I can shoot it up into the atmosphere and he could probably reach it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not particularly. I haven't noted great crossing from Jeff Cameron even at Stoke. What I've noticed is some decent diagonals. That's the way Stoke play, and Stoke is not the same as old Stoke, but they're still a long ball team at their core. He plays a lot of decent diagonal balls to forwards running on, to the edge of the box, trying to get wide. I'm not so sure he plays a decent cross from deep in the attacking third. But Cameron was the least of the worries in the back line today. That's clear. That's absolutely 100% clear. Sasha Kleshtin didn't play very well. Thanks for the call, Vince. Got a lot coming in. Going to move on. 716, you're on the air.
Yeah, first of all, I missed the first half of the game because I have to go to the stupid school thing because we don't get to take off school to watch the U.S. men's national team. It's our national team. We should get to leave the school. It's terrible.
Okay, fair enough. So what do you take out of the second half then? I mean, the first 20 minutes of the second half was pretty good, but then clearly unable to score, unable to break through. The posture changed once again. When the United States was on the front foot, they were the better team. I mean, that seems a very obvious thing to say. But that team and the way that they were constructed, you needed to hide that back line. You needed to hide that center back pairing. And the only way to do it was to put your foot on the ball, move forward as quickly as possible, which has always been the United States' strength. So what do you take out of that second half?
Well, I've been watching Josie Altidore at Sunderland, and I've watched him with this team, and I think that it's not time to say, it's by no means time to say he's out, but I think we need to start giving Johansson and Agudelo and some other guys looks up there, because he just doesn't have it right now.
Okay.
And we don't have the time. He's got to show another performance that's a little bit better than what he had today. I know he had a few chances, or we got to start looking elsewhere.
Okay. Again, I mean, I hate to be a broken record. Thanks for the phone call, man. I hate to be a broken record about this. Okay. But Josie Altidore he missed a chance. Cameron's one decent cross. He missed that. He's got to get that on goal. That is a strike against him. But if we're talking about the performance across 90 minutes, or when did he come out? The 80th for Juan Agudelo? The performance across those 80 minutes. I thought when he did get the ball at his feet, he wasn't bad. He wasn't terrible. Is there a better option for distribution as a target forward than Josie Altidore? I think you're better off playing the ball to his feet than to his head. And he's not great, but tell me where the guy is that's going to do that job. As long as the United States is trying to use that position as a target forward, who else is better? 541, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, terrible performance, but I have two things for you. I know his end ball is not always there, but I don't care what anyone has to say. Brett Shea has to be on that plane, and Fabian Johnson has to be at left back.
I'm going to agree with both of those statements. And I've
agree with that?
I've said the reason you bring Brett Shea isn't because he's not because he's one of the best 23 players on the team. I don't buy that he's one of the best 23 players the Americans have. But you bring him because of the dimension that he provides when you put him in a game the way Klinsmann inserted him into this game tonight. He was in his short stint, and I think it's unfair to judge players who were on the field for 80 minutes versus what Brett Shea did in 30. But in his 30 minutes, he was one of the brighter spots. And that continues to be true because, number one, as you said, maybe some pace, speed, maybe that's part of it. But he's also willing to take guys on. And he's the only option the United States has right now whose first instinct is to drive into the attacking third, get to the end line, and try to make something happen from there. Anything else, man?
Yeah, and I think Jeff Cameron needs to be at center back. I just don't think he gives enough for us at right back, but I don't know who else. Maybe Brad Evans, or if Chandler can get back in time. What do you think about Jeff Cameron?
I think Jeff Cameron is the best defensive option at right back, period. That's my opinion.
All right.
And I don't think that today was going to change that, no matter what happened. And I don't think he was identifiably at fault for either one of those Ukrainian goals. And I think that while I am frustrated with his ability to pass from the right back spot and his ability to cross when he does get the overlap, I take him because of his defensive abilities over a guy like Brad Evans, who, while a better passer of the ball, maybe on the same level as Cameron as a crosser. Brad Evans probably more likely to put in a decent cross than Cameron at this point.
You know who I saw something from today? I actually saw something from Bedoya. Granted, I still like Zuzi over him, but I actually saw finally something from him against a good team. What do you think about Bedoya?
I thought Bedoya was one of the better players for the United States today. Yeah, absolutely.
I did too.
Yeah, I don't know that you really put a lot of you take a lot away from Alejandro Bedoya and his potential to make this team. And I know there are people out there who will tell you that Bedoya is a better option than Susie. I'm still in the Susie camp, but
I'd agree with that.
But I don't think that Bedoya hurt himself today. No. Anything else, man?
So the next game is Mexico. Huge opportunity for our MLS guys because a lot of our players today did not look good. So
yeah. Well, look,
big opportunity for
again. Look,
the Liga MX and MLS players.
You're going to get domestic players for that game because of the timing. It's not a FIFA date. You're not going to get those European players in. And look, the way that things have worked out and the shift in where American players are playing means you can get Clint Dempsey, Michael Bradley in that team. Obviously, Brad Evans. Obviously, Gonzalez and Beasler will be your.
Joe Corona.
Well, maybe Joe Corona, sure. I think it's interesting that we have shifted to an MLS heavy team. I don't know what it means. I think it's more circumstance than anything else. Partly because both Dempsey and Bradley decided to make a move back to the States before that you felt like they really needed to do so. But I want people to remember this. While this is going to be the deepest team that Klinsmann will ever have, that the United States has ever had at a World Cup under Jurgen Klinsmann, I am still of the opinion that depth is relative and that the United States is not a good enough soccer country to put together two teams and go out there and play up to a standard we've come to expect from the first team. That's the issue today. You saw so much. This was a disjointed team, and it was a disjointed team by function of the roster. And when we
miss Donovan and Bradley today so much. Those guys are two of our big catalysts for this game.
I think Bradley is the key. I think everybody will tell you that Bradley's the key.
No doubt about that.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Phone lines are still open, 201-430-2378. We plan to go, 45 minutes or so here on the Best Soccer Show as we wrap up a United States loss to Ukraine in Cyprus. And I will say this, do not take this as an excuse for poor performances. I've outlined this. When the United States is in audition mode, when Jurgen Klinsmann puts out a lineup of guys that are supposed to make their case to make the team, it never goes well. That's one problem. The problem here, and it's a basic psychological problem. The United States came into this clearly with players who, while they should be individually motivated, not motivated as a team. There can't be a whole lot of rah, let's go out and beat Ukraine from this group, from guys like Onyewu and Brooks, who have not been in the United States setup for a long time. So when you get a team on the other side, and I underestimated this factor when the game started, before the game started, you get a team like Ukraine dealing with everything they've got at home. This was clearly an escape for those guys. They clearly went out there with some national pride. They have nothing else to play for. They're not going to the World Cup. This isn't ease their way into form because they're going to Brazil. They're not going. Beat whoever's in front of you. I don't think it mattered that it was the United States at all for Ukraine. Now it was made easier by those basic errors that we saw from those two center backs and from the back line in general. I'll throw Castillo in this mix as well. You could certainly argue that he didn't pick up his marker on the first Ukrainian goal. Don Anthony Brooks at one point put under pressure by a bad pass, I admit. Flicked on Ukraine. He flicked it. His header went backwards right into the path of the Ukrainian player making a midfield run. Now again, when the United States looked good or looked better, because chances were still not necessarily there, they looked better because they were pushing. Because they moved everybody. You looked at the basic posture of that team from the first half when they were getting wrecked to the initial 20 minutes of the second half. Look at where everybody on the field was positioned just as sort of our basic setting. We're going to play from here. We're going to play with our back line essentially on the halfway line. And as long as they could keep the ball and string together some passes, and look, again, they got into a rhythm there, and it looked better. But as soon as the cracks started to form, as soon as Ukraine loosened them up with a little bit of possession and a ball over the top to beat those guys who weren't communicating well enough, then everything reset back. And I think and instinct kicked in. They didn't play very well. Bad result for, I don't even want to put a letter grade on this team. A bad result for a European-based squad that included players we never expect to see in Brazil. 805, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, this is Scott.
What's up, Scott?
You mentioned earlier that you think Shea should be on the plane. And if that's true, I feel like you're either A, dropping someone from the Diskerud, Beckerman, Bedoya camp, or B, not bringing a fourth striker.
I'm actually leaning towards not bringing a fourth striker myself. I've got, and I talked to some people who have told me that they've got, and in fact, I think Ivis Gellerstedt this morning, as a matter of fact, on Soccer Morning said he's got Boyd in over Eddie Johnson. Okay, I have Eddie Johnson in over Boyd, but flip a coin there. Do you need a fourth striker? If you're going to play with one most of the time, if Aaron Johansson is your first option off the bench, if you switch to a 4-4-2, now I know you want some cover, but again, you've got Donovan, you've got Dempsey. We're talking about whether or not Landon Donovan's a starter in this team. I know there are some questions today from a lot of people whether or not Clint Dempsey's a starter on this team. I find that hard to believe from what Klinsmann has done, not because I think that Clint Dempsey isn't playing terribly, because clearly he is. But I could see Jurgen Klinsmann bringing Breck Shea as a change of pace winger, a true left-footed chalk on the heels on the chalk winger over a fourth striker. Absolutely.
So even if he's not really playing too much for Barnsley,
who else?
Agudelo is tearing up the Netherlands.
Well, see, I like Agudelo, and I could see Agudelo as a change of pace too, but Agudelo doesn't bring you width immediately off the bench. And if you're talking about trying to break down another team, particularly if you're behind in the game, that's why you bring Breck Shea on, right? You're behind in the game. So if you want to change the way you're playing and you need somebody to be out there, and again, he drives at people. He drives at defenders. How many players in this roster and on that team today, their basic instinct is to drive at a defender? Whether he's successful or not, he at least puts pressure on a defensive player, and he can occasionally get to the line, put it across, cut back, make something happen at the top of the box. There's just not another guy like that, whether he's playing well at Barnsley or not. Anything else?
No, thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate it, man. 562, you're on the air. 562, you're on the line. What's up? Hello? I can hear you rustling your phone. What are you doing? Your performance is as bad as the U.S. men's national team today. Who is this? All right, you hung up. 201-430-2378. All right, look, this is what we're going to do. All right, phone calls coming in. We're going to be dependent on you to call in. We're not going to just sit here and stew in the failure of the U.S. today. If you call in, we'll keep it going. 401, you're on the air.
Hey, how's it going? This is Julian. This quick point, I was just really concerned about how it seems like the defense is not capable of running back after they're beaten. Excuse me. It's just concerning. It seems like both goals, like they had a good 4 seconds to get back to the goal line, and they just couldn't do it.
It was the second goal in particular. Howard comes out, makes a save. You need your guys, you need your defenders, the ones who are back, and both Brooks and Onyewu that were there to make a run back to the line and try to clear that off. I mean, that's the way that you keep that goal from going in. And the ball wasn't moving very fast on the rebound chance. Somebody can slide in and make that save. 313, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, it's Isaac from Pittsburgh.
What's up, Isaac?
Hey, so I just had a eureka moment. If you can't solve the fullback problem, then you eliminate it. Let's try 3-5-2. That way, Klinsmann gets to keep his 5 midfielders, and us you as an international team fans get to have 2 forwards.
No, you do realize, Isaac, you do realize that in a 3-5-2, you're playing with 3 center backs.
Absolutely. Let's go Omar Gonzalez, Matt Beasler, Clarence Goodson.
Okay. I don't know why you would necessarily do that. I mean, you're trying to look. I don't. That's what Mexico does, by the way. That's what they're going to do under Herrera. I don't know that the United States has the personnel for that. And I know
I don't know that the United States fullbacks are helping matters anymore. And plus, we have to begrudgingly admit that that Jeff Cameron is our best right back option, even though he can't put in a complete game on both sides of the field. So, anyway, something to chew on. Thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate it, Isaac. I mean, look, I don't think that anything that radical is going to happen. Now, what I think a lot of us are going to start talking about is whether or not you need to get a second forward. 646. Turn the show down, man. Or woman.
Hey, Tim in Brooklyn. Yeah, I want to see Eddie Johnson, Breck Shea, and Juan Agudelo all on the plane.
Okay.
I'm not sure who you drop. And honestly, I'm with people that are starting to worry about Clint Dempsey and thinking him and Donovan should be on the plane, but maybe subs if they're not gonna.
Well, let's
play up to.
Let's wait on Donovan. I want to see how Donovan starts the season, and the same thing goes for Clint Dempsey. I mean, look, the only reason we're worried about Clint Dempsey is because it didn't start well in Seattle last season. Now, there are a lot of reasons that could have been the case. I'm not going to give him excuses, but I will say that, clearly that was an interesting transition for him as a player. The only reason we're worried is because he took the loan, and he didn't play well on the loan. Landon Donovan took the winter off, okay, as all MLS players do. Let's see how he starts the year in MLS before we start worrying about whether or not both of those guys are going to be out of form. I actually trust that Landon Donovan will be playing well in MLS come World Cup time. And then it's just a matter of where do you work him into that lineup if you decide that he's a starter. I think he's a starter. I am flabbergasted by anyone who says he's not. But that also requires Fabian Johnson to move to left back. And again, we may be looking at a situation where Klinsmann wants Beasley specifically because of his ability to go forward. He's willing to trade off that defensive ability, that natural defensive ability, for what Beasley gives you going forward. And Johnson's just not, while Johnson can be effective as an attacking player, he's not effective in that specific role.
Well, and also, is Johnson maybe a solution for right back and moving Cameron into center back and keeping Beasley in? I had thought that I would not see Beasley, but the way things are going,
no.
Gonzalez worries me, and I feel confident about Cameron. And if Johnson is playing regularly at right back, then maybe Beasley, the old man, does make it. I'd be fine with that.
Okay. I mean, look, that's another possibility. I mean, I think the way that things are going, thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it. The way things are going, it looks like Beasley and Gonzalez are going to be your starting tandem, but something could change. He could decide to give Jeff Cameron a shot back there. I mean, we've seen Jeff Cameron struggle at center back too. Let's not forget. 419, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, Jason? This is Nick from Toledo.
What's up, Nick?
Couple things. I thought Cameron had an okay day, but if he's going to be playing right back, we got to get some service from him as far as those crosses go. Those were not his finest effort today. But I just had a question about Clint Dempsey. Is this the worst form you've seen him in as a player?
I have to go back a long time. I mean, when you are paid to score goals and you're not scoring them, then it's easy to sort of point at you and say, well, it's been terrible. I think he tried too much when he got to Seattle. I know some people will say, well, that's just who he always was, and maybe it was covered up a bit in England. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Clint Dempsey. I don't want to say that he's fallen off the table because I really don't buy that it's possible for him to go from as effective as he was last year. Particularly, we watched him through the end of the Premier League season into the summer, played very, very well against Germany. If you remember, now look again, friendlies. They are what they are. They're just little blips in time against a competition who may or may not be taking it seriously. I think he scored 2 goals against Germany, played out lights out, and then we're talking about less than a year later, and suddenly he's completely ineffective. Again, function of the team he's on the field with, and he's clearly not very good right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of what's going on with him, because even during the qualification process, maybe I'm mistaken here, but I seem to not really remember him having much of an impact there as well. And I don't know, it's rough to see because I really love what he brings to the table, but it's hard watching this.
Yeah, he scored the goal in the snow against Costa Rica. I'm trying to remember, to be honest with you. I'm trying to recall the Hex and how effective he was in the Hex. I mean, I think he had his moments. I don't think we ever said, well, Clint Dempsey should be sat down. And that's where some people are. I'm not there yet. I still think your best team has Clint Dempsey in it. I still think your best team has Landon Donovan in it. I still think that your best team has Graham Zusi over Alejandro Bedoya. But there are some options. I mean, this is going to be difficult for Klinsmann. My issue today, and Nick, this isn't what you called in about, and people want to talk about the practical matters of putting a team together. Twitter depresses me during U.S. men's national team games, good or bad. I mean, unless they go out and win 5-0, it's just this sea of negativity, which, again, I guess as fans, that's part of what we do. But I'm seeing people pop up using this game as, I guess, a reason to say it. Things like the United States isn't going to get a point in Brazil next summer or this summer. And look, that's possible. Ghana, Portugal, Germany. It's killer. I get it. It's very, very possible the United States goes 0 in this tournament. But I don't think you should be looking at this game and start drawing those conclusions. Or that you should imagine that the United States can't play much better than we've seen them play recently. I mean, there's just not a lot of evidence here to sort of go on and say, well, this is who they are. It's going to be, let's see what the send-off series brings. I mean, I don't know. Again, I just don't like being a pessimist, and I'm not saying it's not possible the United States falls flat. Thanks for the call, Nick. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, appreciate it.
951, you're on the air.
Hey, what's going on, man? It's Giovanni.
Hey, Giovanni, what's up, dude?
Oh, not much, man. No, I just wanted to talk about something one of your earlier callers talked about. Our center back pairing of Gonzalez. I was going to agree with that guy because I don't really trust Gonzalez either. I mean, I'd rather have J.F. Cameron right there instead of Gonzalez.
Okay.
There's just something about him that.
A lot of people don't trust Omar Gonzalez. He seems to be good for at least one gaff a game, whether that's losing a marker on a set piece or just switching off for a moment. He seems to be good for one of those a game. Again, let's see how the MLS season starts. Will he have fixed that in the offseason? I don't know. But and based on the evidence that we have, I don't blame anybody who says maybe I don't trust Omar Gonzalez. But when the United States has been the strongest, it seems to have been those two guys, and I'm just not sure that there's anybody else. I mean, again, Jeff Cameron's an option, but he's not playing the position regularly, and that's a concern for me as well, Giovanni.
So now, my other question to you is, who would you replace at our right back? I mean, me personally, I don't want Evans on going to Brazil either. He's not. I mean, we're talking about players that are top-notch quality that play in the European leagues, and I mean, you're gonna have to face Ronaldo. You have to face all those. I mean, come on. I mean, really, do you honestly think Evans has the speed and the quality to defend the right back? He may be good at center midfield, but for right back.
No. I mean, I don't, and I think that that it's very possible. Thanks to call Giovanni. I think it's very possible you see Brad Evans get burned, but I also am aware, or I also believe that Jurgen Klinsmann's aware of those issues. Honestly, look, I think we saw what was the last the January friendly when Evans looked bad at that position. Again, a friendly with a bunch of players trying to make their mark. Again, I don't know. I don't want to draw conclusions based on this. And I still imagine that if Jurgen Klinsmann decides to start Brad Evans at right back against Ghana in Brazil, there will be a game plan in place to help cover for his deficiencies. Now, that may mean you lose something somewhere else. But if that's the best option you got, I don't know. What else do you do? 251, you're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, man, how you doing? I feel like we shouldn't be freaking out about this little friendly because I felt like the Ukraine, they came to play. A lot of our players were just not in it to win it. And I felt like this game was more about answering the questions of, not who's going to start so much, but who might be on the plane to the World Cup. And I believe that, on Yewu, just being in the starting lineup, in my opinion, was not the best choice. I felt like Brooks was the better in this game. And I felt like if you're going off sort of what we should be, where we are right now defensively, this wasn't the best game to sort of go off of because I felt like it was a makeshift back lineup and, we shouldn't be freaking out.
Let's not equate this defensive performance to what the United States will put on the field in the World Cup. I mean, look, they could fall flat. They could be really bad in the World Cup, but it won't have anything to do with this performance, and we shouldn't jump off the cliff because John Anthony Brooks is young and hasn't played with Onyewu, and Onyewu's rusty and frankly slow at this point. And
exactly.
Those two guys had problems. Again, I think that if you're going to draw any conclusions, it's about those individual players, and instead of sort of looking at the big picture team performance and shaking your head and wondering what's going to happen when they go up against a group of death, look for those players that either impressed you or didn't, and most of these players didn't. Either scratch them off your list or include them based on, any positives if there's a spot to be had, and then let's move forward, because that's what Jurgen Klinsmann's going to do from this. Now, I'm seeing some quotes, and it's saying that Klinsmann said when asked who played well today, it was Tim Howard. That was it. I think that's a very fair. I think that's a very fair assessment of this game. Got anything else?
I felt like you weren't playing some of the players at their proper positions. I felt like it was more experimental on Jurgen Klinsmann's part. But anyways, I'm going to let you go. Just awesome. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot. Look, again, don't let's look at this. They played terribly. That's a fact. They responded fairly well in the second half, the start of the second half. People calling for halftime changes, by the way. Jurgen Klinsmann doesn't make halftime changes. Even in a friendly, when he's got 6 of them at his disposal, he doesn't make halftime changes. He makes 60th minute changes. He may have some rule that without an hour of play, you can't really get a fair assessment of the starters. I don't know. I mean, you would think you want to give those other players as much time as you gave the substitutes as much time as you gave the starters, but clearly that's not his MO. 661, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, it's Chris from California.
What's up, Chris?
Not much. Because there was nobody in the stands, what sort of insight did you get from, Tim Howard giving instructions to the back line?
I think we knew Tim Howard yells a lot. I also think we know that this was a new group for him. I mean, he's played with Gooch a lot. He should know Gooch and his tendencies, but this is a different player than we saw 5 years ago at this point. I mean, this is what Taylor Thomas said on the broadcast. Oguchi Onyewu has not been the same since he tore his patella tendon against Costa Rica in October of 2009. That's how long it's been. Gooch went to the World Cup as a backup for Bob Bradley in 2010. Did he? I don't recall. Did he get on the field? Did he actually play in that World Cup? If he did, I'm sure it was bad. Since then, Gooch has been wandering around Europe looking for playing time. He's landed at Queen's Park Rangers, one of the better teams in the championship. Good for him. Sheffield Wednesday on loan now. Sorry, let me get this right. He's at Sheffield Wednesday now in the championship, looking for playing time. That doesn't mean he's the Gooch of old. And it doesn't mean that when Tim Howard says, do this, do that, Gooch is going to respond in the same way he did before. I think that familiarity is gone. Clearly, John Brooks, having not played with Oguchi Onyewu, having not played with Tim Howard, having not played with those fullbacks, Castillo was particularly bad for me today. And it wasn't just defending in terms of one-on-one, the type of things we talk about with Beasley and Evans. It was terrible positioning. Constantly being caught upfield, constantly being 1-2 right around him like he's not even there. Didn't even seem to want to make an effort to get back, to get into a more natural position. Failed on the first goal to track a marker, even though Brooks is the one who played the guy on side. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm going to sort of throw all of this out because none of these guys made a mark enough to say, I'm on the plane, except Jeff Cameron is really there because of his versatility. That's it. Anything else?
No, that was it.
I appreciate the call, man. Thanks a lot.
All
right, let's go ahead. I think we should probably wrap this up at this point. And what more is there to say about this game? And the problem is when the United States plays this poorly, and it happens on occasion, everything you say about the build-up to the game, which was particularly unique, the psychology of the Ukrainian team, which, again, we're guessing at. I'm guessing that they wanted to prove something. They wanted to come out and represent their country. The makeup of the roster, the makeup of the lineup, the choices of Jurgen Klinsmann to put out, again, sorry, Gooch, broke down center back and super raw center back together. Does that sound like a recipe for success? I was overly optimistic ahead of the game. I really was. Really, really was. And yeah, clearly that was wrong. Thought maybe the Ukrainians would fall on the other side of the psychology. Completely wrong. So everything that we say about that, as we sort of put it in context, sounds like an excuse. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not fair to say that the United States was not ready to play. I don't know. Maybe they just got beat by a better team. I don't know. Taking away anything from this roster or this lineup is a dangerous road. We'll find out a lot more about the United States in the build-up, the send-off series, we get to the World Cup. We'll find out then. It's a group of death, guys. Gotta get ready. All right, thanks a lot to everybody that called in. Go listen to the podcast after the fact if you missed the pregame show, the halftime show. Seth Vertelny from Goal joined us, and an open wide for some soccer on North American Soccer Network. He joined us in the pregame show. Go check out his long-form oral history of the 1994 World Cup, the tournament that changed everything for soccer in America. It's a reason we're all here. Anything else, producer Trevor? Sorry we didn't get Jared on the postgame show. Jared and I will be back on the weekend. Make sure you listen to Soccer Morning, NASN. All right, guys. I think that's that is not what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. There we go. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Soccer Morning. Join me then. Bye.